Dylan, are you ready for today's podcast?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Hey! Welcome back to the Open Door Youth Podcast, where we talk about all things faith. That's the word, faith. Today, we're going to talk about physical evidence and locations to support and to back and to prove the claims of the Bible. Again, I'm introducing myself for the first time. I'm Dylan.
I'm Carson.
Nice to meet you, Carson. And this is the Open Door Youth Podcast. Roll the intro.
Roll it.
Again, welcome back to the Open Door Youth Podcast. Today, we're going to unpack some physical evidence again, and locations to support some claims of the Bible. We have three. There's plenty more when it comes to speculation. There's so many speculation pieces. People believe, they know exactly where Jesus's tomb was. There's a couple different locations for that. So, not definitive proof necessarily, but these are some you got to be crazy to deny that these are factual. So, first we have three big ones, and then we're gonna go into locations afterward. So I'm gonna throw it to Carson with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Explain what those are.
Explain what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to explain what they are exactly, but basically, they're like copies of the scriptures of the Old Testament. And this was discovered back in the late 40s, early 50s, roughly around there. And they had dated them sometime between 300 BC and 100 AD of when they were written. And it's just kind of like proof of these copies of the scriptures, along with the fact that the scriptures hadn't changed even over time. So it's just a little bit of because we have the Bible that we have now and stuff like that, but these are other parts and kind of fragments of the different scriptures, copied and written by other people over time, and shows that what has happened is true and hasn't changed pretty much. And also it just points out how important they were, and to preserve these words that were written and passed along through generations.
Yeah. I think it's super cool. There's over 900 of those manuscripts in there, which is crazy to think that we have the Bible, which was written so long ago, to be able to find that again later on and just confirm, and it to be written at a later date as well, copied and very detailed, right? That's very cool that we still have those things. Puts a lot of maybe proof to what the Bible says. That definitely supplies a lot. And it's cool. I think it's also cool that we found it so late. Because when we think about the Bible, we think about this ancient book that was written so long ago, and it's this big deal because some people don't want to believe it because it was so long ago. But we found these fairly recently in a different location, so it helped us understand that also the word got spread and copied, and I think that's super cool. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, and and with the location of where they were found would also kind of align historically with where it would be traveling through by who wrote them and copied them. A little bit of a question for you. If you found a 2,000-year-old Bible, so back when they made original copies of it,
right?
How would that compare to the modern day one? Do you think it'd be close? Do you think it'd be different?
Yeah. I know that so when it comes to Bible translation, so I would say this Bible here, right? It's NLT. So number one, it's very different. But if we had an NASB or something like that, one of these more accurate versions, I I think it would be fairly close. I think there's a lot of differences when it comes to the way that things were said. Obviously, it's in a completely different language as well. For us Americanos,
Yeah.
very completely different language. But the values, the teachings, the prayers, the poetry, um, all very, very, very similar. And I think the Dead Sea Scrolls show us that.
Mhm.
Is that we were very quickly able to define that as pieces and fragments of the Bible after the Bible had already been completely invented as well. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna I feel like the comparison's gonna vary depending
hmm
on what translation you're reading,
right,
what year, and also, um, something that we find out about the not only are they in a different language
hmm
that's translated, but, um, when we do translate their words to English, it's still very broken,
right,
so you kinda have to piece it together
right.
a little bit,
Right. Which
um
is why there are so many different Bible versions, is because not everybody we think did it right
Yeah.
necessarily. Like there's a lot of things in the King James that are different than the NASB, right? There's a lot of things in NASB that are different from the NLT.
Mhm.
It's kind of like the honestly. So for me, it's kind of like the game of telephone. We actually did that a few weeks back at the bonfire night. But it's kind of like the game of telephone with Bible translations if you don't go back to the original text. So some Bibles will go like second and third string, and so they'll write a version of the Bible based on another version of the Bible, which means that that version of the Bible is it's not super far off, but far enough off from the original translation, from the original Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, all those. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd say we I don't know if we ever talked about it on the podcast, but we talked about at youth group about the
mhm,
different translations of the Bible.
right.
Um, and yeah, so I mean, did we have an episode on that?
I don't think so. I
Okay,
know we talked a little bit about
right.
the Bible in general in the first episode, but I don't think we talked about translations now.
Okay, it must
Mhm.
have been at youth group
Yeah, I
then that
think
we
so.
talked about it.
Right.
Um, but so go ahead and moving on from that into our next piece.
Mhm.
It's the Tel Don inscription. Do
Right.
you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. So some quick facts. It
Mhm.
was found in northern Israel, which, if you know anything, that is very, very well. I mean, it's God's chosen nation. Is right there. That hot spot, right, for a lot of things that happen in the Bible. So that was found in like the 1990s, which means that was really recent. What was that? How many years ago was that? 35-ish years ago for
Depends
finding
on what part of the 90s, but yeah,
Right, very
pretty
true.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. It mentions the house of David, the first time outside the Bible that we've ever seen that, ever. And it was dated to around the 9th century BC. Tell us a little bit why you think that's cool, that we were able to find that, especially now, but kind of what that represents and what.
I mean, it's a great like outside source to show that David wasn't just a figure that was made up in a story
Mhm,
that we see in the Bible.
mhm,
This is another account that confirms that
mhm,
David was a real person. He was
right.
a king. That this house of David,
Mhm,
that there's a lineage. There's an importance of it from
right.
before him and after him,
Mhm,
which would align with the scriptures of going from Abraham to David, and then the importance of the house of David that then moves down the line to
mhm,
Jesus
right.
eventually. Um, so you get the outside source
Mhm,
that confirms what we read in the Bible,
right.
and it just kind of all fits together.
Right.
Um,
It all fits the ultimate timeline as well, which it's just so neat, that I don't know, because it's the first time out of the Bible that King David was mentioned. It mentioned him as a king rather than just a figure. And so as the Bible has already told us about King David, we see that listed in this inscription. Um, and it wasn't just a legend or somebody that existed um, in a book that we read today.
mhm.
And I just think it's more proof to the fact that the Bible is the ultimate history book, um, and that's a pretty cool fact.
Yeah,
It's just pretty cool. It's definitely
absolutely.
pretty rad.
And with this, as I was doing some of my research and such, um, I found that like whenever I was looking up like physical evidence of the Bible
Mhm.
or archaeological finds of the Bible and
Mhm.
like, searches,
Right.
I kept constantly finding pages that were the opposite of what I was looking for.
Mm.
Like they're like, "Oh, this is a hoax. This is fake news."
Huh.
Like, these are archaeological finds that are commonly believed are
Mhm.
fake. And like, why do you think that there's so much information out there that tries to disprove the archaeological finds?
Mm. I don't know. I think to be able to try and disprove this, you have to what's the word? You have to ignore a lot of what we're talking about today. You have to ignore some of these just common facts. So I don't know. I mean, there's the truth as a whole in the world is something that we all try and seek, right? Whatever that means. It can be our truth, your truth, my truth, God's truth, whatever. We try and seek that. Us as Christians, we seek the truth of God. People who aren't Christians, I think, just tend to think that we're, um, I don't know, maybe reaching for something.
Yeah.
But I think they just tend to just completely ignore some of these really groundbreaking facts. I don't know. Like, this is an amazing discovery. All three of these that we're going to talk about are amazing discoveries that the proof is a really like big word, but basically prove that the Bible is legitimate. Um, so to be fair, I don't really know why people choose to disprove it. Like, why they try. I'm not sure. I'm really not. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I mean, part part of me thinks like it's sometimes I think it's just human arrogance,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I think it's one of those things that if you don't believe in it, like if you don't believe in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
and Jesus and um Christianity, I
Right.
guess, following Christ, why would you not want to?
Right.
Because you think about how widespread Christianity is
Mm-hmm.
and how like many people follow it,
Right.
the different cultures it impacts, that it's all around the world.
Right.
Why if you're in the mindset of I don't want to follow Christ,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to think this person doesn't follow Christ, is looking to disprove it,
Mm-hmm.
because imagine if you were the one that disproved Christianity.
Fair.
The the real like the religion,
Mm-hmm.
that um
Got a phone call there.
imagine being the one that proved, I would say, the most widespread known faith
Mm-hmm.
in all of history.
Yeah, that'd
You
be a
know?
pretty rad thing to actually accomplish.
Yeah.
So I understand. I guess
Yeah.
yeah, some of that
So I,
would
I
make
guess
sense.
I try to take it from the mindset and perspective of somebody that's outside the faith
Mm-hmm.
and that is seeking truth
Right.
and is like, or if they're more on like the heavy science side of things,
Right.
evolution, all that. It's like if you are going down that path and don't believe in it, then imagine how great your name would be in the
Mm-hmm.
history books if you proved like hundreds of millions, even possibly billions of people over the years
Mm-hmm.
who have followed Christ in this religion.
Prove them wrong,
And yeah,
man.
so,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. And I think as humans we seek validation as well. So that's immediate validation. That's
yeah,
immediate
yeah.
recognition.
So that's why I say it's an arrogance thing. Is that
Right.
it's a self righteous like
Mm-hmm.
promoting yourself, wanting to be known and
Mm-hmm.
popular, and
Yeah.
top of the list, top of the
Yeah.
chain.
I mean, I also think it comes back to ignorance as a whole. Like, I don't necessarily want to believe something if I don't have to. I think science is one of the things that people often they try to use science to disprove the Bible. Um when it comes to carbon dating, dating certain fossils, things like that, right? They use those as immediate factors to disprove the Bible. To me that's ignorance rather than just what word did you use a minute ago?
Arrogance.
Arrogance. I think it's more ignorance rather than arrogance because they're like, I see the facts. I don't even want to try and learn that. Ignorance is not just being, uh, I don't know, stupid. It's wrong. It's not, I didn't want to use that word, but it's not just being, stupid about something. It's not wanting to be knowledgeable in the area either. It's right. It's
Close-minded.
right. It's being closed-minded on a subject that you knew nothing about. And so, anywho, I think that's a big part of also why people try and disprove the Bible is because they're like, oh, well, this is, commonly known and this is commonly spoken. Like, okay, I understand that, but you're completely negating these other pieces. I have another question for this one
Yeah.
for the Tel Danson inscription. Just um, does it build your faith to know that David really ruled Israel? Does it build your faith to know that this exists or no?
Oh, well, I mean, I would say, like, knowing that this exists,
Mm-hmm.
it does help build my faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. Knowing that David ruled over Israel,
Mm-hmm.
I I mean, in a way it does.
Sure.
Just to know, like, that's adding on to the whole grand scheme
Right.
of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that, he did that and that was true. And to know that he had access to such a huge, like, kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
basically, like, physical, like, earthly kingdom,
Right.
yeah, he still, sought after the heart of God,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it builds my faith a lot to know that you can have all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
um, and, be king over a whole entire nation,
Mm-hmm.
but yet still surrender to God,
Right.
and make him your king,
Right.
which would be extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And we also even see that in the life of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
when he's tempted in the wilderness,
Right.
where he gets taken up onto there's two different times. He gets taken to a temple and then he gets, like, taken up onto, like, a mountain
Mm-hmm.
or whatever and, says, "You see all these things over here. If you basically,
Yeah.
like, bow down and worship
This
me,
could all
then
be yours,
yeah,
essentially.
this can be all yours."
Right.
And Jesus, obviously says no.
Right.
Um, and so, like, that kind of thing where it's more than the physical,
Right.
and there's no amount of money and power and stuff, that you can receive on earth that's greater than, your faith in
Right.
God and Christ and serving Him.
Right. I was talking to somebody the other day, um, and we are talking about someone else. Um, but one of the things that this someone else needed was some physical things. It wasn't necessarily a struggle with faith, but it was more so. So I thrive off of seeing. Right. Seeing isn't necessarily believing. Believing comes without sight. Um, walk by. Never mind. Yeah. So anywho, um, this person needed some physical things. One of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, actually. Um, and so I, I think that this one alone for me would be almost enough to be like, dang, okay, I see what's going on. I understand. Because that is super, super cool to know that something written in the time where the Bible was written and created shows that David was a king and did exist. So I can look back at this, and it's something that we just found, which I just think is super cool. It's not something that has had time to get sort of convoluted and wishy-washy, like we don't believe whether it's actually true or not true or whatever. Like it was just found. Same thing with the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? These are all very modern day finds, and we're able to be like, dang, that's actually true. Because now I'm finding something now that proves it then. All right, Lee, let's move
Mhm.
on to number 3. This is the third and final like physical evidence thing. Is Hezekiah's tunnel. Let's hit it.
All right, I love it. So Hezekiah's tunnel. So it was so they were, like, digging this around 700 BC
Hmm.
roughly, to bring water into Jerusalem.
Right.
So actually they had people on both sides
Hmm.
that were digging. One side was so they had people in Judah diverting water from the I don't know how to pronounce it, Guyon Spring,
Hmm.
something like that.
Sure.
It's okay. Um,
The
just
Gihon,
yeah.
the river Gihon. Is
What?
that what you're talking about?
No.
Okay, never mind.
I don't
Continue
know.
then.
Gihon, and it's
Yes,
spring.
the Gihon. It was one of the rivers that is you remember how the river it was separated by three rivers, the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
One was the Gihon, which is what it
Okay.
was believed to be. Anyway,
I'll take your word for it.
yeah, yeah.
I don't I haven't read about that in
That's
such a
a
long
whole thing
time.
that I think is super cool. But
Yeah.
continue on that.
So the Gihon Spring
Right.
to Siloam Pool
Yep.
in Jerusalem. So they had people digging from both sides,
Mhm.
and basically was diverting water in there um to give like keep their like resource of water,
Mhm.
um and help them with like their water supply,
Right.
keeping the city taken care of in that way. And I read that it's not just a straight line
Mhm.
between the two, but it's kind of like zigzagged.
Interesting.
And I believe part of that was also because of like essentially to help with if anybody came to like try to attack them
Mhm.
or like siege the city and stuff like
Mhm.
that. That like um if people were coming to attack, they found out about the tunnel
Right.
and then went through there to try and like attack them. They couldn't just go in a straight line to them. It
Right.
would it would basically slow them down that they'd have to
Mhm.
weave back and forth.
Mhm.
Um, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I actually think that when the staff here went on the trip out there, they went through this tunnel.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I
I
could
wasn't
be
here
wrong,
yet.
but I know that my parents talked about like a very like a really like narrow like
Mm,
tunnel that they walked through.
that's cool.
And I thought it was this one, but pretty much yeah, it's still like you can still see it today.
Right.
You can walk through it
Mhm.
today. It still exists. It's not it was there and then they destroyed it
Right.
or something, but
Right.
it's actually something that is still there. And it aligns with 2nd Kings 2020
Mhm.
and 2nd Chronicles 32:30.
Right.
Do you have that pulled up right
No, I
now?
don't.
Or okay.
No, I
I thought I
don't.
thought that's what you were looking
No, I'm
up.
in Genesis.
Okay. Um so yeah, that was one thing. I mean, it was a two different things,
Yeah.
for resource and for protection.
Right.
Um, and so it's just really cool to like.
I've I've hit the I have to the Gihon thing now, which I think is
Okay,
pretty cool.
all right.
So the here I'm just gonna read Genesis 2, let's see, 10 through 14. It says a river flowed from the land of Eden, watering the garden and then dividing it into four branches. The first branch was called the Pishon, flowing it called the Pishon. It flowed around the entire land of something. Not even gonna try that one. It said where gold was found. The gold of that land was exceptionally pure. Aromatic resin and onyx stone are also found there. The second branch was called the Gihon, right? So this is all the way in Genesis, which is super cool. Flowed around the entire land of Cush. The third branch was called the Tigris. Flowed around the land of the east of the land of Asher, and the fourth branch was called the Euphrates. Now, there's three intersections that happen. Um, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. So people know where the Tigris and the Euphrates are. But one of the still the biggest wonders is where the Gihon is well, no, where the Pishon is located, which is the first branch. The Gihon is in this situation here. We know where that is. But the Pishon is being that fourth intersection point. We don't know where that is.
Hmm, that's
And so that's
interesting.
one of those things. I just thought it was cool. When you said Gihon, I'm like, I know about that one.
Yeah,
So that was cool. That's a whole nother rabbit trail.
yeah,
Trying to locate the Garden of Eden. But
yeah,
actually, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
That's pretty. I wish we might have
So
included some of those things because those are some speculation points.
right.
But it's cool.
So actually, now that you brought that up
Mhm.
about the Tigris and the Euphrates
Euphrates,
and stuff
yeah,
like that, those are things that we still see in modern day.
right,
So do you mind telling us a little bit more about some of the other places in the Bible that
yeah,
we see in the scripture that we still see today, or
yeah,
at least historically proven?
yeah. So there's a bunch. There's a bunch, and I think there's more than we just have on this list.
Mhm.
But we have Israel, which is now modern day Israel, a little bit different,
An
but
obvious one.
But exactly, exactly. But it's the exact same location. A couple things have changed, with borders and things like that over the years, but ultimately it's the same thing. We have Jerusalem as well. Um,
Splitting up the kingdoms too.
right. Yep. We have
Mhm.
Egypt, which is a massive part of Old Testament stories and New Testament stories. We have the Dead Sea, the Red Sea. The notes say it's still there, still salty, and still wild. That's
What?
really funny. Um, but yeah, so that's a location I want to go
Mhm.
to, the Dead Sea, because I want to go float in it because of how
Oh
salty
yeah.
it is. I think that's such a cool fact. So if you don't know what we're talking about, the Dead Sea is so unbelievably salty. Um, and so the buoyancy is is much larger than any other body of water. So when you try and go float, you float higher than any, like you float higher than, does that make sense?
You don't have to try.
Yeah, you
You
don't even have to try
literally
to
just
swim.
go you can just literally just stop and lay
Right.
down and it'll hold you up.
Right. And it's
Like
so
it's
crazy.
it's different than when you're in your swimming pool and you
Right.
actually have to
Trying to float.
learn how to fill yourself with air to
Yes.
hold yourself up.
Right.
It's literally just so salty that it'll hold you up.
Right. It's one of those bucket list locations because that's just so cool.
Yeah.
Um, super, super cool. But the Red Sea as well. Yeah, that was parted at one point, which is talked about a super long time ago, and it still exists today. We have Bethlehem, which is still existent today. The Sea of Galilee and the Mount of Olives; those are all still existing, and they're all visitable as well. You can visit all of these places. Some places might not be so easy to travel in, but you can visit all these places. They still exist, and that's super, super cool. Um, I think the coolest part about it, is just based on geography alone. We can see that this book has so many facts already in it. I don't know of any other book um, that's ever been written that has more facts in it.
Mm.
When it comes to, like, most books don't use legitimate places. They might use a legitimate place here or there, but using an entire set of nations doesn't really exist in any other book, not like that, unless it's like a
Yeah.
modern day book when it's talking about like World War I or World War II or something like that, where it's using multiple different places.
Yeah.
But geography alone um, makes the Bible feel like real life,
Mhm.
and that way we can know some of it as fact.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool.
I mean, throughout the Old Testament, I mean, even a lot of the stuff that's recorded and documented,
Hmm.
um, we can see that actually like lines up with how
Right,
things went
right.
in history with I mean with the Babylonians, Assyrians,
Hmm.
Egypt,
Yep.
Israel when there's like the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom,
Right.
there's Judah and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So like as time goes on, they're
Hmm.
recording these historical events that are happening and
Yeah.
how the biblical Christianity stuff is
Hmm.
working in with real like events
Right.
you know so like
Yeah.
it's not just fictional stuff that they incorporated into the real world but
Mhm.
real life stuff happening with real events that
Yeah.
are going on.
Yeah, and I think, like, so they've now found, I think this is a fairly recent discovery too, but the chariot pieces and the wheels
Hmm.
inside of, um was it the Jordan River or the Red Sea? Which one? I
It was the
forget.
Red Sea.
Is it the Red Sea? I'm
Yeah.
struggling right
So
now.
because Moses parted.
Right, the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so where's my head just now?
I don't know.
But yeah, so they found the chariot pieces in there.
Mhm.
And that's something that happened
I've heard there's
so
been a lot of
long
debate
ago.
on that
There
recently.
has, there
Yeah.
has. Um, but I think that's so cool. I mean, that's just another one of those things. And there's so many that are speculation that
Mhm.
we can't use as fact, but us as Christians can link those pieces that maybe
Mhm.
scientists can't link. Um,
Or don't
but
want to.
or don't want to,
Yeah.
right? Or don't want to by their arrogance or ignorance. Um, but yeah, man, that's super, super cool. I truly love hearing and reading about and watching videos about all these things because I think it's really, really cool.
So one of the last points that I have on here that I as I was like reading through this stuff, I was just thinking about like different stuff throughout the Bible that
Mhm.
happened and I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, there's no like archaeological evidence of Jesus's life.
Right.
Like, like we can see where like some of the stuff,
Hmm.
during his time,
Hmm.
happened, but I never had really stopped to like really think about it because so we just celebrated Easter
Right.
or people call it Resurrection Sunday,
Right.
stuff like that. We celebrate um his resurrection after his crucifixion,
Right.
and it's almost a good thing.
Hmm.
It's a great thing, honestly, that we don't have archaeological evidence of his body
Right.
because then there's no resurrection.
Right.
So that's just something that I started thinking about today that I thought was really cool is like we can't have
Hmm.
archaeological evidence of his body
Right.
because his body's not here. Or like
Right.
he did die,
Yeah.
but then the resurrection happened.
Right.
His body is no longer there.
Yep.
He appeared in the flesh once again after he was killed, and then he ascended into heaven.
Right.
So with coming back to life, there's
Hmm.
no dead body as
Yep.
he walks about and appears to people. And
Yep.
then when he ascends, his body's completely gone.
Right.
And so
And there are people who try and speculate about the clothes of Jesus that he was wearing when he died, when he stripped off the cloth after he was um, what's the word, raised, one of those words, from the dead. People try and create speculation around that. That is 100% findable. Cloth deteriorates over time, but the fact that we can't find the body in these two or three locations that we have kind of nailed down as the specific resting place of Jesus before he rose and ascended to heaven. The fact that we can't find the body there proves so much. I think that is a really, 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 really cool fact, especially this close to Easter. I
yeah,
think thinking about that's
absolutely.
pretty cool. So I'm happy we did this close to Easter.
Any thoughts, Jimmy?
Just
Okay.
Jimmy.
I think Jimmy is telling us to wrap up.
Oh, Jimmy's telling us to
I
wrap
think
up.
I think Jimmy's ready to go home.
Got it. Okay. I
Yeah.
understand, Jimmy. I understand. That's hilarious. Get your
uh,
open door merch.
yeah, exactly.
Come meet Jimmy.
Oh, jeez.
That's so funny.
Anyways, maybe something to ask yourself, like, were any of these
Hmm.
facts or, anything that we talked about, was there any of it that really strengthened your faith?
Hmm.
Any of them that you really want to know more about?
Yeah.
Pick one of them, go back, research it, find out more, and just use it as an opportunity just to build your faith,
Yeah.
and build, just a kind of a mindset of, you know, I mean, we can go by faith, but
Right.
the physical stuff, the evidence helps us,
Absolutely.
especially if you're more physical evidence driven.
Right.
And so pick one of them or pick a place,
Yeah.
research it more, find out the history of it. Um, and yeah, and we'll be back for another episode
Absolutely.
next week.
Hmm.
It is I think it's undecided right now.
Yeah.
So
I think it is undecided.
I'm pretty sure it's undecided at the moment, but no, we will be back next week for another episode.
Absolutely.
And that one's gonna be an extra special episode for me,
Hmm.
at least.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm finally I'll be leaving my job. I'll be
Right.
done, and
That's
I
crazy.
honestly don't know if it's public knowledge, but it will be now
I
that
guess so. Put it
yeah,
on the podcast.
yeah, that yeah, I'm gonna be coming on staff here at the church
Yeah.
as a full-time intern.
Right.
Yeah, so it is a temporary thing.
Right.
Don't get your hopes up. No, I'm just kidding. No, get your hopes up. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fun. It'll be super exciting.
Yep.
Gonna be able to pour all of my mind and heart into full-time ministry now. So
Right.
super excited.
Man,
Yeah,
that's
it's
gonna
gonna
be
be a lot
awesome.
of fun.
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
I know.
So instead of recording this on Monday next week, we're gonna record on some random day that he's working here now.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be cool.
Yes, sir.
Dude, the reason we record on Mondays is because Carson has off on Mondays.
Yeah.
And so the days that Carson doesn't work, he's here at the church
I'm
doing
working.
stuff. He's
Yeah.
working here.
Yeah.
So
Because my current schedule is working Tuesday to Saturday, and
Mhm.
then Sunday serving Sunday morning.
Yeah, you can-
serving Sunday night.
yeah, Wednesday nights as well.
Wednesday nights, wake
Yep.
up Monday,
Yep.
Podcast Monday morning, and then
And then
schoolwork,
school.
and then we're back to work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so now he gets to shift his attention
Yes.
and I know that's especially going to help the podcast, help the youth group. It's going to be incredible.
We're going to kill it.
Yeah.
It's going to be so fun.
Dude, it's going to be such a blast. Anyway, thank you for watching the Open Door Youth Podcast. Again, I'm Dylan.
I'm Carson.
And thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week. Roll the outro.
Roll the outro. Peace.
Peace.